Welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite the task today, a set of sources, 7 biblical snippets that seem totally disconnected, but their authors claim they actually form one single pattern, a prophetic template. So our mission is to dig into this template and see how it supposedly lines up with some hypothetical world events around October 8th, 2025.
Exactly. And it's crucial, like you said, we're looking for patterns, not predictions. That's the core argument here. The whole thing traces this cycle. Divine covenant, then human failure, but leading to ultimate messianic hope. We're filtering this through the work of Dr. Ernest L. Martin, specifically his focus before 98 on restoration apokatastasis, the hope of Israel.
Okay, got it.
Right.
So pattern seeking. Let's jump into the first theme, guidance and division. The sources kick off with Exodus 40.38. God's guidance, always there, visible. Cloud and fire. It establishes this principle, right? Absolute divine control over Israel's journeys.
Right. But then almost immediately, that guidance hits a messy reality. You look at Joshua 17.5 and the inheritance, the promised land, it's complicated. It's divided. Manasseh gets 10 portions separate from others. So the land isn't just one simple thing. It's contested from the start, which kind of foreshadows all these later disputes over specific portions.
Interesting. And to handle that division, you need separation. The source uses Leviticus 11.27, the rule about animals walking on paws, to make a bigger point about holiness. Separation is key, it argues, to avoid contamination, and they connect that directly to modern stuff like enforcing borders, blockades, keeping unclean influences out.
Yeah, but that drive for purity bumps right up against, well, human nature, internal failure. And this is where things get really stuck. Deuteronomy 1.28, the people's heart melts. Why? Not because of the actual enemy strength, but because of the bad report from the spies. Fear, exaggeration, talking about cities fenced up to the heavens, these giant sons of Anak, pure fear talking.
Okay, that idea of fear-driven paralysis, that feels resonant. The sources draw this line to the hypothetical U.S. government shutdown in 2025. Eighth day, total deadlock. A superpower basically rendered helpless, not by an outside force, but by its own internal fights and political fear. Is that parallel too neat, maybe?
Well, it might seem neat, but the pattern it highlights is powerful. Internal fear can be more crippling than any external threat. And this leads right into the next big theme, the battle for truth. The sources really focus this around the hypothetical 2025 Gaza flotilla incident. It touches on contested land, separation, but also this concept of a war of guile from 1 Peter 3.0. It says basically, watch your words, no evil, no deceit, if you want good days.
And that battle over words is intense in the sources. They mention accusations of media side killing truth with spin against one side, while the other side defends its actions, like a blockade, as totally necessary for security, preventing contamination again. Both sides seem to think their whole future depends on whose story wins.
Exactly. And here's where the pattern takes a fascinating turn, an inversion. It points to Acts 28.12. Paul is in chains, physically imprisoned. The source connects this to the hypothetical detention of activists on that flotilla. Paul reframed his chain. It wasn't just imprisonment, it was a witness. So the activist confinement, their chain, ironically becomes the very thing that blasts their message worldwide. Power symbols get flipped.
Wow. Okay, so pulling this all together, what are we seeing here? These patterns, guidance, internal fear, fights over territory, battles over the narrative. They just keep repeating, don't they? Maybe the struggle isn't just about land, but more about managing fear and controlling the story.
I think that's exactly right. And the final piece the sources offer is Judges 10.16. It says, God's soul was grieved with the misery of Israel. Through Dr. Martin's lens, this suffering, it comes from human mistakes, but it's not just punishment. It's seen as this compassionate, almost strategic force pushing towards restoration, towards healing. The depth of the pain sort of sets the stage for a potential turnaround.
That's quite a thought, that suffering isn't just consequence, but maybe a catalyst. So if the world's pain reflects God's desire for restoration, and God is pained for the trouble, then here's something to think about. What specific modern foreign god, maybe it's runaway consumerism, maybe paralyzing cynicism, maybe just toxic political division, what does the world need to collectively turn aside from right now to actually make that restorative shift happen?